turn around and walk away now, my best friend texted. I was about to knock on my boyfriend's door when my phone lit up with Maya's message. My hand froze midair, keys dangling from my other hand. It was 2:47 a.m., and I'd driven across town in my pajamas because Derek said he needed me, said it was an emergency, said he was having a panic attack and couldn't breathe. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. But Maya's text made my stomach drop. She never texted me this late unless something was seriously wrong, and she definitely never told me to run from Derek. Maya loved Derek. She was the one who'd been pushing me to move in with him, saying we were perfect together, that I'd never find someone who treated me better. I stood there on Derek's porch, my breath visible in the cold Denver air, staring at my phone screen. The porch light flickered, like it always did, casting weird shadows across his front door. I'd been here 1,000 times before. I had my own key, my own drawer in his dresser, my own coffee mug in his kitchen cabinet. But something about tonight felt different. Wrong. My phone buzzed again. Maya. Chloe, I'm serious. Get in your car and leave. I'll explain everything, but you need to trust me right now. I backed away from the door, my heart hammering. Maya and I had been best friends since college. We'd been through everything together. Bad breakups, family drama, job losses, that terrible semester when we both got food poisoning from the campus cafeteria and spent 3 days holding each other's hair back. She'd never steered me wrong before. But Derek was my boyfriend of 2 years, the guy who brought me soup when I was sick, who remembered my coffee order without being asked, who'd driven 4 hours to pick me up when my car broke down in Colorado Springs. He was supposed to be having a panic attack right now. He'd called me, crying, saying he couldn't breathe, that he needed me there immediately. I was torn between the door and my car when I heard voices inside. Laughter. Not the sound of someone having a mental health crisis. I pressed my ear to the door, my blood turning to ice water. Derek's voice, clear and relaxed. I can't believe she actually fell for it. She's probably speeding over here right now in those ridiculous bunny slippers. Another voice, female, familiar. You're terrible, Derek, but also kind of brilliant. How long do you think before she figures out you're not actually having a breakdown? My world tilted sideways. I knew that voice. It was Amber, my coworker from the marketing agency where I'd been working for the past year. Sweet, bubbly Amber who always complimented my outfits and asked about my weekend plans. Amber who'd been so supportive when I'd told her about Derek's anxiety issues, who'd even suggested some breathing exercises that might help him. She's so gullible, Derek continued, and I could practically hear the smirk in his voice. Did you see her face last week when I told her I was too stressed about work to go to her company party? She actually offered to call in sick just to stay home and take care of me. It's almost too easy. You're going to hell, Amber giggled. But seriously, how much longer are you going to keep this up? The fake anxiety attacks, the mysterious illnesses every time she wants to introduce you to someone new from work? As long as it keeps working. She thinks she's being this amazing, supportive girlfriend. Really, she's just giving me exactly what I want. Space, no questions, no pressure, and she pays for half of everything without complaining. It's the perfect setup. I couldn't breathe. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone. 2 years. 2 years of rushing over here every time he called in crisis mode. 2 years of canceling plans, missing events, turning down invitations because Derek was having a hard time and needed me. 2 years of paying for dinners, movie tickets, even his portion of the rent for this place because his anxiety made it hard for him to work full time. None of it was real. Plus, Derek's voice continued, have you seen how paranoid she gets when I don't text back right away? Yesterday, I ignored her messages for 3 hours just to see what she'd do. She sent me 17 texts asking if I was okay. It's actually kind of pathetic. That's because she cares about you, you psychopath. But she was still laughing. Though, I have to admit, watching her scramble around the office whenever you call with some emergency has been pretty entertaining. Remember last month when she left that client meeting early because you said you were having chest pains?
And all I was doing was playing video games with Tyler. Classic. She even brought me homemade soup and stayed the whole night watching me sleep to make sure I didn't have a heart attack. I had to pretend to be sick for 3 more days just to keep the story consistent. My vision blurred. I remembered that night. I was so scared, convinced Derek was dying. I sat in his uncomfortable chair for 8 hours, checking his breathing every few minutes, calling in sick to work the next day because I was exhausted. I spent my entire weekend taking care of him, bringing him medicine, making sure he ate, researching heart conditions online until my eyes burned, all while he was perfectly fine and laughing about it with my coworker. The best part, Derek's voice went on, is that she thinks we have this amazing relationship. She's always posting those cute couple photos on Instagram, writing these long captions about how supportive and understanding I am. Her friends all think I'm this sensitive, emotionally available guy. If they only knew I was just gaming the system. You know what's really messed up? Amber's voice was getting closer to the door. I think she actually loves you. Like, really loves you. She talks about you all the time at work, about your future together, about how proud she is of how you're managing your mental health. Yeah, well, love makes people stupid. And stupid is profitable. That's when I heard footsteps approaching the front door. I panicked, diving behind the large planter beside Derek's porch. My phone buzzed again. Maya, probably wondering why I hadn't responded. I crouched there in the dirt, in my pajamas and bunny slippers, listening to my boyfriend of 2 years and my trusted coworker casually dissect how easily they had been manipulating me. The door opened, and I heard Amber's voice more clearly now. I should probably head home. Early meeting tomorrow, and Chloe will probably be all worried and distracted if she thinks you had another episode tonight. Let her worry. It keeps her focused on me instead of asking too many questions about where I actually spend my time. Derek's silhouette appeared in the doorway. Text me when you get home safe, babe. Babe. He called her babe, the same way he called me. I watched from behind the planter as Amber leaned up and kissed him. Not a friendly peck on the cheek, a real kiss. Long, familiar, comfortable, the kind of kiss that comes from months of practice. After she left, Derek stood on his porch for a moment, checking his phone, probably looking at my frantic texts about being on my way to help with his emergency. I watched him shake his head and chuckle before going back inside. I stayed crouched behind that planter for another 10 minutes, processing what I'd just learned. Every emergency call, every canceled plan, every time I had rearranged my life to accommodate Derek's supposed anxiety attacks or mysterious illnesses, all fake. All calculated manipulation designed to keep me compliant and convenient while he did whatever he wanted with whoever he wanted, including Amber, who saw me stressed and worried about Derek every day at work and never said a word. My phone lit up with another text from Maya. Chloe, please tell me you left. I've been trying to reach you for an hour. I finally found my voice, typing back with shaking fingers. I'm here, behind his planter, heard everything.
Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you're enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story.
You were right. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. Can you drive? Do you need me to come get you? How did you know? I typed back. Saw them together at River Point Bar tonight. Very cozy, very not having a panic attack. I've been trying to figure out how to tell you. I looked up at Derek's house, at the warm light spilling from his living room window, where he was probably settling in for a comfortable evening, completely unaware that his entire house of cards was about to collapse. He had no idea that I'd heard everything, no idea that I finally understood exactly what I'd been to him all along. Not a girlfriend, not a partner, just a mark. A reliable source of money, attention, and convenience, all dressed up in fake emergencies and manufactured crises. But as I sat there in the dirt, my pajamas getting cold and damp, something shifted inside me. The hurt was still there, raw and burning, but underneath it, something harder was forming, something sharper. Derek thought love made people stupid. But he was wrong about one thing. Love might make you vulnerable, but betrayal makes you dangerous. And I was about to show him exactly how dangerous a woman could be when she stopped believing the lies and started planning her revenge.
I drove home in complete silence, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles went white. Maya had offered to come over, but I needed to be alone. I needed to think. By the time I pulled into my apartment complex, I had a plan forming in my mind. Not revenge exactly, but justice. There's a difference. Derek had no idea I knew the truth. That was my advantage. He was expecting me to show up tomorrow with worried eyes and homemade soup, ready to nurse him through another fake crisis. Instead, I was going to give him exactly what he'd been giving me for 2 years: a performance. I spent the next 3 hours going through every text message, every photo, every memory, looking at it all through this new lens of truth. The pattern was so clear now that I couldn't believe I'd missed it. Every time we'd plan something important to me, Derek would suddenly have an episode. My promotion celebration dinner, canceled because he was having heart palpitations. My sister's wedding, missed because he was too anxious to be around crowds. My birthday party, ruined because he had a panic attack and needed me to take him to urgent care where they found absolutely nothing wrong. But when it came to things he wanted to do, his anxiety mysteriously disappeared. Basketball games with his friends, weekend trips to visit his college buddies, that expensive concert he'd wanted to see. Suddenly, he was perfectly fine, mentally healthy, and ready for anything. I pulled up Amber's Instagram account and scrolled back through months of posts. There they were, barely hidden. Photos from restaurants I recognized, places Derek had told me he was too stressed to go. Pictures from events he'd claimed his anxiety wouldn't let him attend. And in several photos, there was a man's hand reaching into the frame, someone just out of view wearing the same watch I'd bought Derek for Christmas. My phone rang at 6:30 a.m. Derek, right on schedule. Baby, I'm feeling so much better this morning. Thank you for coming over last night. I don't know what I would have done without you. His voice was perfectly calibrated, just the right amount of vulnerable gratitude mixed with lingering weakness. Of course, I replied, matching his tone with fake concern. I'm just glad you're okay. Do you need me to bring you anything today? Actually, could you pick up some groceries? I'm still feeling pretty drained yet. I don't think I'm up for going out yet. Absolutely. Text me a list. After I hung up, I stared at my phone, disgusted. He was so confident in his manipulation that he wasn't even trying to be creative anymore. The same script, the same requests, the same assumption that I would drop everything to take care of him. But I had my own script now. I got dressed for work and arrived at the office early. Amber wouldn't be in for another hour, which gave me time to prepare. I printed out screenshots from her social media, particularly the ones that showed her at places Derek had claimed to be too anxious to visit. I also pulled up the company's social media policy, which strictly prohibited employees from engaging in activities that could damage workplace relationships or create conflicts of interest. When Amber walked in at 8:30, she gave me her usual bright smile. Morning, Chloe. How was your night? You look tired. It was eventful, I replied, not looking up from my computer. Derek had another anxiety attack. I spent most of the night taking care of him. Oh no, she said, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. Is he okay now? He's better. Thanks for asking. I finally looked up at her, studying her face. She was good, I have to give her that. The concern looked genuine. You know, it's so hard sometimes watching someone you love struggle with mental health issues. I can only imagine. Amber nodded solemnly. You're such a good girlfriend, Chloe. Derek is lucky to have someone so caring. The audacity was breathtaking. She was standing there, looking me in the eye, expressing sympathy for a situation she had personally orchestrated. Worse, she was complimenting me for being the perfect victim. I've been thinking about getting him into therapy, I continued, watching her reaction carefully. Maybe couples therapy, too. I found this great practice that specializes in anxiety disorders. They have evening appointments, which would work perfectly with Derek's schedule. For just a moment, I saw a flicker of panic in her eyes. Therapy would mean Derek would have to maintain his lies in front of a professional. It would mean consistent appointments, real scrutiny, actual questions about his supposed condition. That sounds expensive, she said carefully. And sometimes therapy can make anxiety worse before it gets better. Maybe you should wait until he's in a more stable place. Maybe you're right. I wouldn't want to stress him out even more. I smiled at her, sweet and trusting. You're such a good friend, Amber, always looking out for both of us. The relief on her face was visible. She actually thought she had successfully talked me out of an idea that could expose their whole scheme. I spent the rest of the morning documenting everything I could. Social media posts, timestamps, inconsistencies in Derek's stories that I had previously attributed to anxiety-induced confusion. By lunch, I had built a comprehensive timeline that showed exactly when Derek's supposed episodes coincided with his actual social activities. But I wasn't ready to play that card yet. I needed more. That afternoon, I called Derek and told him I was working late. A special project, I explained, something urgent that came up. I could practically hear him calculating in his head, figuring out what this meant for his evening plans. That's fine, baby. I'm still not feeling great anyway. I think I'll just stay in tonight, maybe order some soup. I'm so sorry you're still not well. I'll try to finish up here as quickly as I can. Instead of working late, I drove to River Point Bar, the place Maya had seen them together. I didn't go inside. I didn't need to see them together again. I just needed to confirm they were there. And sure enough, at 7:45 p.m., I watched Derek's car pull into the parking lot. He looked perfectly healthy as he got out, checking his appearance in the car window before walking inside. 15 minutes later, Amber's car arrived. I sat in my car across the street, taking photos with my phone. Not of them specifically, but of their vehicles, the timestamp, the location. Evidence that Derek was out socializing while claiming to be too sick to leave his house.
My phone buzzed with a text from him. "Missing you tonight, babe. Wish you were here to cuddle with me while I recover." I screenshotted that too. The next morning, Derek called again with another emergency. This time, he claimed he was having severe stomach problems and needed me to take him to the doctor. I agreed immediately, told him I'd leave work early to pick him up. But instead of leaving work, I walked over to Amber's desk. She was on a personal call, giggling quietly into her phone. When she saw me approaching, she quickly ended the conversation. "Hey girl, what's up?" "I need to leave early today. Derek's sick again, stomach issues this time. I'm taking him to urgent care." "Oh no, poor guy. He really can't catch a break, can he?" The concern in her voice was Oscar-worthy. "It's just one thing after another," I sighed. "Sometimes I wonder if there's something more serious going on, something the doctors are missing." "I'm sure it's just stress," Amber said quickly. "You know how anxiety can manifest physically. Maybe he just needs some time to relax." "You're probably right. Although," I paused, as if something had just occurred to me, "it's weird that he seems to only get sick when I have work events or plans with friends. Last week it was right before my team's happy hour. This week it's an hour before my college roommate is supposed to visit." I watched Amber's face carefully. She was trying to look sympathetic, but I could see the calculations happening behind her eyes. "That does seem like a strange coincidence," she said slowly. "But anxiety doesn't follow a logical pattern. Sometimes stress about you having fun without him could trigger episodes." "That makes sense," I nodded. "You're so insightful about this stuff, Amber. Have you dealt with anxiety issues before?" "A little bit," she said carefully. "My ex had some similar problems." "Really? What helped him?" "Honestly, the relationship ending helped him the most. Sometimes being in a relationship can be a source of stress rather than support." I stared at her for a long moment, letting the silence stretch uncomfortably. She had just suggested, to my face, that Derek would be better off without me, while pretending to be my concerned friend and coworker. "That's interesting advice," I finally said. "I'll think about that." I left work and drove to Derek's house, but I didn't go inside. I parked where I could see his front door and waited.
At 3:22 p.m., Derek emerged from his house looking perfectly healthy. He got in his car and drove away. I followed him at a distance, watching as he pulled into the parking lot of a gym across town. He spent 2 hours there, working out vigorously, hardly the behavior of someone with severe stomach problems who needed emergency medical attention. When I got home that evening, I had 17 text messages from Derek, asking where I was, why I hadn't shown up, if I was okay. The last one was angry. "I'm really hurt that you didn't come when I needed you. I ended up having to call an Uber to get to urgent care by myself." I called him back, letting genuine tears creep into my voice. "Derek, I'm so sorry. I got your messages late. I was in meetings all afternoon with my phone on silent. Are you okay? What did the doctor say?" The lie came so easily to him. "They think it might be a stomach virus. I have to take it easy for a few days. I'm just disappointed you weren't there for me." "I feel terrible. Let me make it up to you. I'll take tomorrow off work and take care of you." "You don't have to do that," he said, but I could hear the satisfaction in his voice. Another successfully manufactured crisis, another day of my undivided attention. "I want to. You're more important than work." That night, I made a decision. Derek thought he was playing a game where he held all the cards. He thought he could manipulate my love, exploit my care, and use my trust as a weapon against me. He thought wrong. I wasn't going to confront him. I wasn't going to have a dramatic showdown or demand explanations. Instead, I was going to give him exactly what he'd been giving me. A carefully constructed performance designed to get exactly what I wanted, while he remained completely unaware of what was really happening. Derek had taught me that love could be weaponized. Now I was going to teach him that two people could play that game, and I was going to be much better at it than he ever was. The next morning, I called in sick to work and showed up at Derek's house with homemade chicken soup and medicine I didn't need to buy. He answered the door in his pajamas, looking appropriately weak and grateful. The performance was flawless on both sides. "You're an angel," he said, pulling me into a hug that felt like touching a stranger. "I don't know what I did to deserve you." I spent the day playing the perfect caretaker while secretly documenting everything. When Derek claimed he was too nauseous to eat, I photographed the full bowl of soup I'd made him. When he claimed he was too dizzy to get out of bed, I recorded him getting up to use the bathroom with perfect balance and coordination. When he insisted he couldn't handle any screen time because of headaches, I caught him scrolling through his phone when he thought I was napping. But the real breakthrough came when his phone rang and he scrambled to decline the call before I could see who it was. "Who was that?" I asked, innocently. "Just a spam call. You know how they are." 5 minutes later, his phone buzzed with a text. This time, he wasn't fast enough. I saw Amber's name on the screen before he could flip the phone down. "Was that work? If there's an emergency, I can step out so you can handle it." No, nothing important. Amber was just asking about some client files." "Oh, that's sweet of her to check on work stuff when you're sick. She's always been so thoughtful." "Yeah, she's great," Derek agreed, then immediately looked like he regretted saying it. I excused myself to the bathroom and quickly texted Amber from my phone. "Hey, how's your day going? Anything exciting happening at work?" Her response came back within minutes. "Super busy day, 3 client meetings and a presentation this afternoon. How's Derek feeling?" So Derek was lying about Amber checking on work files, and Amber was lying about being too busy to meet up with him. They were coordinating their deception in real time, probably planning to meet up later while I was supposedly at home thinking Derek was bedridden with stomach flu. I decided to test my theory. "I should probably head home soon," I told Derek around 4 p.m., "let you get some rest. Plus, I have that conference call with the West Coast team at 6. Derek's face lit up just slightly before he caught himself and rearranged it into disappointment. "I understand. Work is important. I'll probably just sleep until tomorrow anyway. Are you sure you'll be okay alone? I can cancel the call if you need me to stay. No, I'll be fine.
You've done more than enough already. I gathered my things slowly, watching Derek try to hide his eagerness for me to leave. As I kissed him goodbye, he felt tense, distracted, already mentally moving on to whatever he had planned for his evening of supposed recovery. Instead of going home, I drove 3 blocks away and parked where I could see Derek's street. At 5:30 p.m., Derek's car pulled out of his driveway. He was driving confidently, no sign of illness or distress. I followed him at a distance, watching as he picked up Amber from a coffee shop downtown. They embraced in the parking lot like lovers who'd been separated for weeks, instead of coworkers who'd seen each other that morning. I took photos from my car, capturing their license plates, the timestamp, their obvious intimacy. Then I drove home and started planning phase 2 of my operation. The next week, I implemented what I privately called the Derek protocol. Every technique he'd used on me, I turned back on him, but with surgical precision. When he called claiming another anxiety attack, I rushed over with genuine concern, then spent the entire visit subtly documenting his inconsistencies. When he said loud noises made his panic worse, I quietly recorded him laughing loudly at something on his phone. When he claimed he couldn't concentrate enough to read, I photographed him working intensely on his laptop. I started creating fake emergencies of my own, using the same tactics Derek had perfected. Mysterious headaches that required him to cancel plans with his friends, sudden work crises that needed his emotional support exactly when I knew he and Amber had arranged to meet, stomach problems that meant he needed to stay in and take care of me instead of going to that concert he'd bought tickets for. The difference was, my emergencies were strategically timed to interfere with his social life rather than mine. Every time I suspected he had plans with Amber, I would suddenly need him desperately. Derek responded exactly like I had for 2 years. He dropped everything, canceled his plans, and rushed over to comfort me. But unlike my genuine concern for his well-being, Derek's care felt performative, impatient. He was going through the motions because he believed he had to maintain the facade of being a caring boyfriend. "You've been having a lot of health issues lately," he said one evening after I'd called him over for the 3rd fake crisis that week. "Maybe you should see a doctor." "I'm just stressed about us," I replied, letting vulnerability creep into my voice. "Sometimes I worry that you're going to realize you deserve someone better, someone who isn't so needy and anxious all the time." I watched Derek's face carefully as I spoke. He was supposed to reassure me, to tell me I was being ridiculous, that he loved me exactly as I was. Instead, I saw a flicker of consideration, like he was actually weighing whether he did deserve someone better. "Don't be silly," he said finally, but the words came a beat too late. "We're perfect together." "Really?" Because sometimes I feel like I'm always the one having problems, always the one who needs rescuing. When's the last time you needed my help with anything? Derek shifted uncomfortably. He'd never thought about how one-sided our supposed vulnerability exchange had become. In his mind, he was the one with anxiety and panic attacks, and I was the stable one who took care of him. But from my perspective, I was describing our relationship accurately. I was always in crisis, always needing support, always disrupting his life with my problems. The beautiful irony was that Derek couldn't complain about my neediness without admitting neediness was a burden, and he couldn't admit neediness was a burden without acknowledging what he'd been putting me through for 2 years. "I guess I've just been managing my anxiety better lately," he said carefully. "That's wonderful," I smiled at him. "I'm so proud of how much progress you've made. Maybe we should celebrate. We could take that trip to Napa Valley you mentioned months ago." Derek's face went carefully blank. He'd never mentioned Napa Valley. He'd probably discussed it with Amber, and I was betting they'd already made plans to go together. "I don't remember mentioning Napa Valley." "Really? I could have sworn you did. Maybe I'm thinking of someone else." I let confusion cloud my features. "Actually, now that I think about it, Amber mentioned wanting to visit wine country. Maybe I got my wires crossed." Derek relaxed visibly, apparently convinced he'd successfully redirected my suspicion. He had no idea I was testing him, watching his reactions, building a psychological profile of his deception patterns. Over the next 2 weeks, I systematically disrupted every plan Derek tried to make with Amber. When they scheduled lunch dates, I suddenly needed him to help me move furniture. When they arranged evening meetings, I developed mysterious symptoms that required immediate attention. When they tried to plan weekend getaways, I booked surprise romantic activities for us that Derek couldn't refuse without seeming suspicious. The strain was showing on both of them. Amber started looking haggard at work, stressed and distracted. She made mistakes on projects she normally handled flawlessly. She snapped at coworkers over minor issues. The pressure of maintaining her double life while constantly having her plans with Derek disrupted was wearing her down. Derek, meanwhile, was getting sloppy. His lies became more elaborate and harder to keep straight. He started contradicting himself, forgetting which symptoms he'd claimed to have had and when. During one of my fake emergencies, he actually asked me, "Wait, which one of us is supposed to be sick right now?" I looked at him with wide, innocent eyes. "What do you mean?" "Nothing, I'm getting confused. I think I'm more tired than I realized." But the real coup came when I found Derek's backup phone. He'd left his jacket at my apartment after one of my manufactured crises, and when I went to hang it up, I felt the weight of a second device in the pocket. It was an older iPhone, nothing fancy, but when I turned it on, it was logged into social media accounts I'd never seen before. Derek had been living a complete double life. The backup phone contained months of conversations with Amber, but also with other women. Screenshots of dating app conversations, plans for meetups with women whose names I didn't recognize, photos that had never appeared on his main social media accounts. Derek wasn't just cheating on me with Amber, he was cheating on both of us with multiple other people. The fake anxiety attacks weren't just about controlling me, they were about creating space for an entire secret life that neither Amber or I knew about. As I scrolled through months of deception, I realized that Derek's manipulation was far more extensive than I had imagined. He had been systematically lying to everyone in his life, creating elaborate stories and fake personalities to get what he wanted from different people. But he'd made one crucial mistake. He'd underestimated me. I spent that night copying everything from his backup phone. Every conversation, every photo, every lie he told to every woman he'd been stringing along. Then I carefully placed the phone back in his jacket pocket and waited. The next morning, Derek came to pick up his jacket. He was casual, relaxed, completely unaware that I'd discovered the full extent of his deception. "Thanks for letting me leave this here. I've got that client meeting this morning, so I need to look professional." "Of course," I smiled at him. "How are you feeling today? Any anxiety about the presentation?" "Actually, I'm feeling really good, confident. Like everything is finally falling into place." "That's wonderful," I told him. "I'm so happy to hear that you're doing well." And I meant it, because Derek feeling confident and secure meant he had no idea what was coming next. He thought he was winning his elaborate game of manipulation and deception. He thought he had successfully juggled multiple relationships without any of us catching on. He was wrong. And tomorrow, he was going to find out exactly how wrong he had been. I waited exactly 1 week before making my move. 7 days to let Derek feel completely secure in his deception, to let him believe his secret life was still perfectly hidden. 7 days to plan every detail of what would be the most satisfying takedown of my life. The plan started with a group text that I sent to 5 phone numbers I'd found in Derek's backup phone. Numbers belonging to women he'd been messaging, women he'd been making promises to, women who had no idea they were part of a larger web of lies. "Hi everyone, this is Chloe, Derek's girlfriend for 2 years. I know this message might seem strange, but I think we all need to talk. Derek has been lying to us all, and I have proof. Would you be available for a video call tonight at 8 p.m.? I think you'll want to see what I've discovered." Within an hour, I had responses from all 5 women. Confusion, anger, disbelief, but most importantly, agreement to join the call. Each of them had been led to believe they were Derek's only romantic interest. Each had been told elaborate stories about why he couldn't commit fully yet, why their relationship had to remain secret, why he sometimes disappeared for days without explanation. Amber was the first to call me directly, her voice shaking with panic. "Chloe, what are you doing?"
What group text? I don't understand what's happening.
Oh, Amber, I said sweetly. I think you understand perfectly. You've understood for months. The question is whether you want to be part of the solution or part of the problem when everything comes out tonight. I need to talk to Derek first. Derek doesn't get a vote anymore, but you do. You can be honest with me right now, tell me everything, and maybe we can figure out how to handle this like adults. Or you can keep lying, and I'll make sure everyone at our office knows exactly what kind of person you really are. The silence stretched for nearly a full minute before Amber broke. It wasn't supposed to happen like this, she whispered. It started as just flirting, just harmless fun. I didn't know he was lying about the anxiety attacks. I thought you two were having real problems. When did it start, Amber? 6 months ago? Maybe longer? He said you were controlling, that you didn't understand him, that he was planning to break up with you but didn't know how. He made it sound like he was trapped. And you believed him? I wanted to believe him. I liked him, Chloe. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Save the apology. Are you going to be honest in the call tonight, or am I going to have to expose you separately? I'll tell the truth. I'll tell them everything I know. The video call that night was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. 5 women, all between the ages of 24 and 31, all attractive, all intelligent, all completely shocked to learn about each other's existence. I'd prepared a presentation, complete with screenshots, timeline documentation, and photo evidence. Ladies, meet Derek's real schedule, I said, sharing my screen to show a calendar I'd reconstructed from his backup phone. Monday nights, he tells me he has therapy, but actually meets with Jessica for dinner. Wednesday afternoons, he claims work anxiety prevents him from seeing me, but spends that time with Rachel at her apartment. Friday evenings, supposed guys' nights, are actually romantic dates with whoever he's prioritizing that week. Each woman's face on the video call told its own story of recognition and betrayal. Jessica, a nurse who'd been sending Derek money for his supposed medical expenses. Rachel, a graduate student who'd been writing his work presentations because he claimed anxiety made it impossible for him to concentrate. Maria, who owned a catering business and had been providing free food for his social events under the impression she was helping her secret boyfriend network professionally. And then there was Sarah, who delivered the biggest shock of the evening. I'm pregnant, she said quietly, her face pale on the video screen. Derek and I have been trying for 3 months. He told me he was ready to start a family, that he was just waiting for the right time to leave his controlling ex-girlfriend. The controlling ex-girlfriend. Me. The video call lasted for 3 hours. Each woman shared her story, and the picture that emerged was of a man who had weaponized vulnerability itself. Derek didn't just lie about anxiety attacks. He created elaborate emotional crises that required different types of support from different women. He told Jessica he had panic attacks that required expensive medications. He told Rachel he had learning disabilities that made work impossible. He told Maria he had social anxiety that prevented him from catering his own events. Each woman had been chosen for what she could provide. I was financial stability and a home base. Jessica was money and medical expertise. Rachel was intellectual labor. Maria was social connections and professional services. And Sarah was supposed to be the future he'd always dreamed of once he could extract himself from the rest of us. But Sarah's pregnancy had apparently changed his timeline in ways he hadn't anticipated. He's been talking about moving to Portland, Sarah said. He said we could start fresh there, just the 2 of us and the baby. He claimed he had a job opportunity that would let him finally leave Denver behind. That's when I realized Derek's endgame. He wasn't planning to maintain this juggling act forever. He was planning to disappear entirely, leaving all of us behind to deal with the mess while he started over with Sarah in a new city. When were you supposed to move? I asked. Next month.
He said he just needed to tie up some loose ends here first. Derek had been systematically extracting everything he could from each of us before his planned disappearance. Money from me and Jessica, professional work from Rachel, business connections from Maria, and a future family with Sarah. He'd been preparing to ghost 4 women simultaneously while riding off into the sunset with the 5th. After the call ended, we formed a group chat. Not for friendship exactly, but for coordination. We'd all been violated by the same person, and we were going to make sure he faced consequences for what he'd done. The plan we developed was simple and devastating. The next morning, Derek called me with his usual routine, claimed he having chest pains, needed me to take him to urgent care immediately. But this time, instead of rushing over, I told him I was already at the hospital. What? Why? Are you okay? I'm here with Sarah, I said calmly. She's having some complications with her pregnancy. The baby you've been planning together. I thought you'd want to be here. The silence on the phone was deafening. Chloe, I don't know what you're talking about. Derek, I know about the backup phone. I know about all of them. Jessica's here too. She brought copies of all the Venmo payments she's been sending you for your fake medical expenses. Oh, and Rachel finished that presentation you were supposed to deliver today, the one you claimed anxiety made it impossible for you to complete. Maria's catering the confrontation, actually. She made sandwiches. This is insane. You're having some kind of breakdown. The breakdown was believing you for 2 years. The sanity is what's happening right now. I hung up and waited. Derek showed up at the hospital 30 minutes later, probably expecting to find me alone and emotionally unstable, ready to be talked down from whatever dramatic gesture I was making. Instead, he walked into the lobby to find all 5 of us waiting for him. We didn't make a scene. We didn't scream or cry or create a public spectacle. We simply surrounded him calmly and walked him outside to the parking lot where we could have privacy. Derek, we know everything about the fake anxiety attacks, about the manipulation, about the backup phone, about Sarah's pregnancy, about your plan to disappear to Portland next month. I can explain, he started. No, Jessica interrupted. We're going to explain. To your parents, your coworkers, your friends, and anyone else who's been worried about your supposed mental health issues. We're going to explain exactly what you've been doing and how you've been doing it. And Sarah's going to explain to her family why she's having a baby with a man who's been lying about everything, including his name. Because yes, we discovered that Derek had been using a slightly different name with Sarah, claiming Derek was just a nickname. Sarah stepped forward, her hand resting on her barely visible pregnancy bump. I'm keeping the baby, she said quietly, but you're going to sign over all parental rights. You're going to disappear from our lives completely, and you're going to pay child support through the state system, so I never have to see you or speak to you again. That's not legal, Derek protested. You can't force me to give up my rights. You're right, we can't force you, but we can make sure everyone knows exactly who you are and what you've done. Your future employers, your dating prospects, your family, your friends. We can make sure the truth follows you wherever you go. Rachel held up her phone.
I've already drafted social media posts with screenshots of your conversations with all of us. Time-stamped evidence of your lies. Photos of you at locations you claimed anxiety prevented you from visiting. I'm a graduate student in communications, Derek. I know how to make information go viral. I'm also contacting the police about the money you've taken from me under false pretenses, Jessica added. And the hospital where you claim to have been treated for conditions you don't actually have. Insurance fraud is a serious crime. Derek's face had gone completely white. What do you want? We want you gone, I said simply. Not just from our lives, but from Denver entirely. We want you to move to Portland or wherever else you want to go, and we want you to never contact any of us again.
Sarah will work with lawyers to handle the child support situation. The rest of us never want to see you again.
And if I don't agree?
Then we destroy you, Amber said quietly. She'd been silent until now, but her voice carried more steel than I'd ever heard from her. We destroy your reputation, your career prospects, your relationships, everything. We make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of person you are. Derek looked at each of us in turn, probably searching for some sign of weakness, some indication that one of us might be willing to negotiate. He found none. I need time to think, he said. You have 24 hours, I replied. Tomorrow at this time, either you're making plans to leave Denver permanently, or we're making plans to ruin your life here. Derek left without another word. The next evening, my phone rang. It was Derek, calling from a different number. I'll go, he said simply. I'll move to Portland. I'll leave you all alone. But I want something in return. You're not in a position to negotiate? I want you to know that I did care about you, Chloe. All of you. I know you don't believe me, but some of it was real. I thought about that for a moment. Maybe Derek was capable of genuine feeling. Maybe he had experienced real emotions amid all the manipulation and deception. Maybe he had convinced himself that his lies were justified by whatever authentic feelings existed underneath them. But it didn't matter. Derek, I said, I don't care if some of it was real. The fake parts made the real parts worthless. When you build a relationship on lies, even the truths become meaningless. I'm sorry, he said. And for the first time in 2 years, his voice sounded genuinely vulnerable, not performed vulnerability, not strategic weakness, but actual human emotion. I know you are, I replied. But sorry doesn't fix what you broke. Sorry doesn't give us back the time we lost believing in someone who didn't exist. Sorry doesn't undo the damage. What if I stayed and tried to make it right? There is no making it right, Derek. There's only moving forward. And moving forward means you go your way and we go ours. Derek left Denver 3 days later. Sarah confirmed it when his apartment complex called her as an emergency contact to pick up his forwarded mail. He'd apparently paid his lease termination fees and disappeared overnight, leaving no forwarding address beyond a Portland P.O. box. None of us heard from him again. The aftermath was strange and healing in ways I didn't expect. Jessica and I became genuine friends, bonded by our shared experience and mutual respect for how we'd handled the situation. Rachel finished her graduate program and got a job in Seattle, but we stayed in touch. Maria's catering business actually grew because several people at the hospital that day were impressed by her sandwiches and asked for her card. Sarah moved back to her hometown to be closer to her family during the pregnancy. She sent me a photo when the baby was born, a beautiful little girl who looked nothing like Derek. She's going to grow up knowing her worth, Sarah wrote in the accompanying message. No one will ever use her the way he used us. Amber and I had the most complicated resolution. She left our company 2 months after everything came out, claiming she needed a fresh start. Before she left, she stopped by my desk. I know you'll probably never forgive me, and I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I want you to know that watching how you handled the situation taught me something about the kind of person I want to be. I've never seen anyone be so strong and so strategic at the same time. I wasn't born strong. I became strong because someone made it necessary. That's what I mean. You turned being hurt into being powerful. That's something I'm going to remember. 6 months after Derek left, I got a message from an unknown number. It was brief and to the point. This is Derek. I wanted you to know that I'm in therapy now. Real therapy, not the fake kind I used to lie about. My therapist says I need to take responsibility for what I did without expecting forgiveness or redemption from the people I hurt. So I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know that I understand now how much damage I caused, and I'm trying to become someone different. I showed the message to Maya, who had been my support system through everything. Are you going to respond? She asked. No, I said. That message wasn't really for me. It was for him. He needed to send it to feel like he was taking responsibility, but I don't need to receive it to know I've moved on. How do you know you've moved on? I thought about that question for a long time before answering. Because I'm not angry anymore. I'm not hurt anymore. I'm not thinking about Derek anymore. When I think about that whole situation, I don't think about him. I think about us. About how 5 women who didn't know each other came together and refused to be victims. I think about how we turned our pain into power and our betrayal into justice. And what? And I think about how I learned that love shouldn't make you smaller. Real love makes you bigger, stronger, more yourself. What Derek was offering wasn't love. It was just need, disguised as love. And once I learned the difference, I became someone who could never be fooled like that again. The truth is, Derek did me a favor, though I doubt he'll ever understand it that way. He taught me that trust has to be earned, that vulnerability is a gift that shouldn't be given carelessly, and that strength isn't about never getting hurt. Strength is about what you do when someone tries to hurt you on purpose. I kept the lake cabin that Derek didn't know existed, the car he never got to drive, and the life he never got to fully infiltrate. But more importantly, I kept the lesson he inadvertently taught me. Some people will take everything you give them and still ask for more. The trick is learning to spot them before they take anything that matters. These days, when someone tells me they're having an emergency, I ask questions. When someone's behavior doesn't match their words, I pay attention. When someone's story has too many convenient coincidences, I investigate. I'm not cynical. I'm just informed. And there's a big difference between the two. Derek thought he was teaching me to be his victim. Instead, he taught me to be someone no one could victimize again. In the end, that might be the most valuable lesson I've ever learned. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.